Flow, The Psychology of Optimal Experience by Mihaly Csikszentmihalyi. Read by Ugo Agoruah. Chapter 2, Part 3, Attention as Psychic Energy. Information enters consciousness, either because we intend to focus attention on it, or as a result of attentional habits based on biological or social instructions. For instance, driving down the highway, we pass hundreds of cars without actually being aware of them. Their shapes and color might register for a fraction of a second, and then they are immediately forgotten. But occasionally, we notice a particular vehicle, perhaps because it swerved unsteadily between lanes, or because it is moving very slowly, or because it is unusual in appearance. The image of the unusual car enters the focus of consciousness, and we become aware of it. In the mind, the visual information about the car, i.e., it is swerving, gets related to information about other errant cars stored in memory, to determine into which category the present instance fits. Is this an experienced driver, a drunk driver, a momentarily distracted but competent driver? As soon as the event is matched to an already known class of events, it is identified. Now it must be evaluated. Is this something to worry about? If the answer is yes, then we must decide on what the appropriate course of action is. Should we speed up, slow down, change lanes, stop and alert the highway patrol? All of these complex mental operations must be completed in a few seconds, sometimes in a fraction of a second. While forming such a judgment seems to be a lightning-fast reaction, it does take place in real time, and it does not happen automatically. There is a distinct process that makes such reactions possible, a process called attention. It is attention that selects the relevant bits of information from the potential millions of bits available. It takes attention to retrieve the appropriate references from memory, to evaluate the event, and then to choose the right thing to do. Despite its great powers, attention cannot step beyond the limits already described. It cannot notice or hold in focus more information than can be processed simultaneously. Retrieving information from memory storage and bringing it into the focus of awareness, comparing the information, evaluating, deciding, all make demands on the mind's limited processing capacity. For example, the driver who notices the swerving car will have to stop talking on the cellular phone if he wants to avoid an accident. Some people learn to use this priceless resource efficiently, while others waste it. The mark of a person who is in control of consciousness is the ability to focus attention at will, to be oblivious to distractions, and to concentrate for as long as it takes to achieve a goal, and not longer. And the person who can do this usually enjoys the normal course of everyday life. Two very different individuals come to mind to illustrate how attention can be used to order consciousness in the service of one's goals. The first is E, a European woman who is one of the best known and powerful women in her country. A scholar of international reputation, she has at the same time built up a thriving business that employs hundreds of people and that has been on the cutting edge of its field for a generation. E travels constantly to political, business, and professional meetings, moving among her several residences around the world. If there is a concert in town where she is staying, E will probably be at the audience. At the first free moment, she will be at the museum or the library, and while she is in a meeting, her chauffeur, instead of just standing around and waiting, will be expected to visit the local art gallery or museum. For on the way home, his employer will want to discuss what he thought about his paintings. Not 1 minute of E's life is wasted. Usually she is writing, solving problems, reading of one of the 5 newspapers or the earmarked sections of books of her daily schedule, or just asking questions, watching curiously what is going on, and planning her next task. Very little of her time is spent on routine functions of life. Chatting or socializing out of mere politeness is done graciously, but avoided whenever possible. Each day, however, she devotes some time to recharging her mind, by such means as standing still for 15 minutes on the lake shore, facing the sun with eyes closed. Or she may take her hounds for a walk in the meadows on the hills outside town. E is so much in control of her attention processes that she can disconnect her consciousness at will and fall asleep for a refreshing nap whenever she has a moment free. E's life has not been easy. Her family became impoverished after World War I, and she herself lost everything, including her freedom, during World War II. Several decades ago, she had a chronic disease her doctors were sure was fatal. But she recovered everything, including her health, by disciplining her attention and refusing to diffuse it on unproductive thoughts and activities. At this point, she radiates a pure glow of energy. And despite past hardships and the intensity of her present life, she seems to relish thoroughly every minute of it. The second person who comes to mind is in many ways the opposite of E, the only similarity being the same unbending sharpness of attention. R is a slight, at first sight, unprepossessing man, shy, modest to the point of self-effacement. He would be easy to forget immediately after a short meeting. Although he is known to only a few, his reputation among them is very great. He is the master of an arcane branch of scholarship, and at the same time, the author of exquisite verse translated into many languages. Every time one speaks to him, the image of a deep well full of energy comes to mind. As he talks, his eyes take in everything. Every sentence he hears is analyzed 3 or 4 different ways, even before the speaker has finished saying it. Things that most people take for granted puzzle him, and until he figures it out in an original yet perfectly appropriate way, he will not let them be. Yet, despite this constant effort of focused intelligence, R gives the impression of restfulness, of calm serenity. He always seems aware of the tiniest ripple of activity in his surroundings. But R does not notice things in order to change them or to judge them. He is content to register reality, to understand, and then perhaps to express his understanding. R is not going to make the immediate impact on society that E has, but his consciousness is just as ordered and complex. His attention is stretched as far as it can go, interacting with the world around him, and like E, he seems to enjoy his life intensely. Each person allocates his or her limited attention either by focusing it intentionally like a beam of energy, as do E and R in the previous examples, or by diffusing it in desultory, random movements. The shape and content of life depend on how attention has been used. Entirely different realities will emerge depending on how it is invested. The names we use to describe personality traits, such as extrovert, high achiever, or paranoid, refer to the specific patterns people have used to structure their attention. At the same party, the extrovert will seek out and enjoy interactions with others. The high achiever will look for useful business contacts, and the paranoid will be on guard for signs of danger he must avoid. Attention can be invested in innumerable ways that can make life either rich or miserable. The flexibility of attentional structures is even more obvious when they are compared across cultures or occupational classes. Eskimo hunters are trained to discriminate between dozens of types of snow and are always aware of the direction and the speed of the wind. Traditional Malaysian sailors can be taken blindfolded to any point in the ocean within a radius of several hundred miles from their island home, and if allowed to float for a few minutes in the sea, are able to recognize the spot by the feel of the currents on their bodies. A musician structures his attention so as to focus on nuances of sound that ordinary people are not aware of. A stockbroker focuses on tiny changes in the market that others do not register. A good clinical diagnostician has an uncanny eye for symptoms because they have trained their attention to process signals that otherwise would go unnoticed. Because attention determines what will or will not appear in consciousness, and because it is also required to make any other mental events, such as remembering, thinking, feeling, and making decisions, happen there, it is useful to think of it as psychic energy. Attention is like energy, in that without it, no work can be done, and in doing work, it is dissipated. We create ourselves by how we invest this energy, memories, thoughts, and feelings are all shaped by how we use it. And it is energy under our control, to do with as we please. Hence, attention is our most important tool in the task of improving the quality of experience.